environment for someone to murder somebody with their knee while people watch and share that video while people scroll by and say, how many cats are in this picture? There's a problem when we can be that desensitized to death. We just share it. I can tell you when you share it with me, I don't accept it, I don't want it, and I don't watch it. I have no interest watching my brother die. I see him die, I see myself die, I see my sons maybe dying. Because what age do they go from cute to a threat? What is it my 3-year-old? Is it my 10-year-old? Is it my 12-year-old? At what point do I have to have him armed up to walk outside? You know, and this is the thing too, because I don't speak a lot about myself and my story, but what I hear all the time is, Jesse, it wasn't that bad. Man, you were from St. Albert. People liked you. Some people, truly not everybody. That's fine. That's fine. But here's the thing, I have my own wounds, I have my own struggles, and it is not a competition of whose is better. It is not a competition of, well, it wasn't that bad. Is the only time we worry about it is when you die? Is that when it's the only one that works? Or can we start dismantling the system where it's okay to do these little jabs left, right, and center that go unchecked by people who don't look like us? Unchecked in your living rooms, unchecked at the Christmas and Thanksgiving parties, unchecked everywhere, and then really quiet when we're around. Things have to change. They have to change quickly. And they change when you're ready to listen and hear the beautiful stories, the wonderful journeys, the painful journeys, the fall down and get up agains from people who look like me, from black people, indigenous people, people of color, people who live it every single day. If you find yourself checking us and tell us maybe you should do it this way, maybe you should check yourself. Take a pause and listen to the people who are coming on stage today. My name is Jesse Lipscomb. I'll be hosting and introducing some of the people. The first person I want to introduce on the stage is a good friend of mine. We've worked together for some time, but the reason he's here, and partially the reason this event is here, has to do with his unfettered, authentic ability to put himself out there online. He put a video out in a time where I was being quiet and I was being silent and I was exhausted. I felt like I needed to say something, but I just couldn't muster up the energy anymore. I just couldn't. I had nothing left. I had my kids. We're in a global pandemic like everybody is. You got a day home and you got school and you have all of this. And then, of course, they're still killing black people. And I didn't have anything left, but he did. And he posted a video that really spoke how I would have wanted to speak. He spoke how I would love to speak if I was brave enough to speak that raw. And I shared that. And a lot of people liked it. And that video started to make some noise, and that noise started to give me energy. And Ethan's platform is not millions and millions of followers, because it's not about that. When people say, what can I do, of all colors, nobody's really there to listen. You put your heart into being a part of the change, and things will happen. They did for Ethan, and they did for me, and I thank him for his heart and his ability to share. And I welcome him to the stage right now.
Well, let's see how this goes. I'm nervous. I'm gonna shake a little bit. I'm gonna play with my hands because they got me confined to a mat. Can't see it, but I can't go back and forth like I want to. So, I'm just gonna give you my story. My name's Ethan Woodham, and I'm a Jamaican Canadian. I had a hard time getting prepared for this. I'm a man of faith, so I've been praying, what am I going to say, how am I going to say it so that it's conveyed properly and people felt heard and understood. And really, I didn't know until this morning in the shower. And I realized my platform, my lane is mental health. That's what I've been speaking out on for a while. And I came to the realization right there in the shower that I don't remember my first racist experience as a kid because I blocked my childhood out. I happened to be abused from the time I was 5 until the time I was 15, so I cut out a huge portion of my life. The first full experience that I remember is in junior high. I broke out into a country song because all my friends were breaking out into a country song, and then all my friends stopped breaking out into that country song and looked at me like, what you doing? And I didn't really understand why. My mom's white, Lenny is black. That made me, I spend time with my mom, I get to listen to country. I didn't understand why I was being made fun of for being able to sing a country song in its entirety. It didn't change me listening to country, it didn't change me listening to white people music. I like all music. Music saved my life. Things like this went unchecked for a long time with me. The ability that I liked hockey over basketball. I wasn't black enough to play basketball. No, I just didn't like playing it. I liked hockey. I liked, hitting people. That was my thing. Stuff like that went unchecked until my adult life, when I started to understand that watered down racism or microaggression really messed up how I view myself as a black man. The fact that I am mixed does not stop people from checking me and calling me the N-word. It doesn't stop when I was 18 years old in a bar not that far from here, dating a white woman and having her get into a full-on fist fight with women who didn't like that she was with a black man. And in the same night, having to fight for my life because I was dating a white woman. I hear it a lot, and it kind of irks me that I don't see it. It doesn't happen. Maybe it happens up here, but it's not like the States. You missed the point. It happens. The problem that we are starting to have, and we have been having, is that it gets pushed over here because it's not at an alert level yet. We're there now. All we want to do is be heard. We want to feel equal. We want to have the same opportunities afforded to us, and it's not happening, so we're just going to be louder. It's not happening, so we get more frustrated. And then I turn on the news in the midst of a global pandemic, and I see someone that looks like me, begging for his mom, screaming, "I can't breathe." Nobody cared till it was too late. It's a weird walk of life being half black, half white. I get hated from both sides. I get lots of all over the place. Why? Nobody took the time to educate myself on how to defend myself. Nobody took the time to educate the white people in my life on how to treat people like me, like a human being apparently, but we can talk about that later. Nobody taught the people of color how to treat me, because what wound up happening was you divided us by black and white, and I fit down the middle, so I don't belong to anybody. I fight the same fight as this side. I educate on this side. I am here to bring people together. I have a 3-year-old girl who looks just like me. I have a 9-year-old girl who looks nothing like the two of us. How am I supposed to bring them up in a world I know is going to hate them because they don't look like each other? How am I supposed to raise them with my wonderful girlfriend Avery struggling to explain to Amara why people put her sister against her? Struggling to tell Roxy why they put Amara against her? See, this divisiveness is what we're here to fight today. What my fellow speakers and organizers are here to fight today. I have loved seeing that we put this up, hoping that a few people would show up, and now, I can't count you because you're not here, but I know the group's at like 5,000. Beautiful. That means people are listening. But saying you want to listen, saying you want to understand is not enough. You need to take action. Lots has been posted in the group, lots will be shared over these next few days, and I urge you to not stop because this ends in an hour or in 2 hours, whenever we stop talking. I urge you to let this keep growing in you. It's uncomfortable. I know a bunch of you are uncomfortable right now. I know that feeling. I'm sitting, my heart's pounding, my hands are shaking. I get it. But we have to push you out of your comfort zone because that comfort zone hasn't worked. Step willingly into that uncomfortable area, and you are going to see just how powerful we are when we unite under the same mission, under the same goal. Thank you guys for listening to me. I know that was short, but at the end of this, all I want to do is implore you to keep wanting to learn. When I step off this stage, I'm still Ethan Woodham, Jamaican Canadian. When I step off this stage, when I walk out that door, I am still Ethan Woodham, Jamaican Canadian. This does not stop for me. This does not stop for my fellow speakers. It cannot stop for you. Thank you.
When they say the silence is deafening, you feel it here, and that's a real thing. That was Ethan Woodham, and that's what we're doing here. We're sharing our stories to those who want to listen. I see there's 2,000 people, just so you guys know, the speakers, we got 2,000 people listening to us right now, which is a beautiful thing. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. A couple of, housekeeping things of what we're going to do a little bit later on. At 8:36, I believe is the time, we will ask that everybody go outside and make so much noise. I want you to take your posters that you have right now that you're making for the rally and put them in the windows, put them in your cars. Let people know what this would have looked like and the impact and how much it's spread throughout our city. We don't have to be quiet because we're not all here together. We actually need to be loud. We need to be loud so the people who didn't even know this existed know what it is. So they can ask, what are you being so loud about? You can tell them in an informed way that I'm making noise right now to get some attention for the people who haven't had it before. I'm making noise right now so that you can ask, hey, can you quiet down? Why, does that make you uncomfortable? Have you been a person of color for your entire life? No? Then sit down and we'll talk about why you need to learn some things. That's what I'm excited to do. I'm also excited to introduce our next speaker. Her name's April Eve. She's a founding member of the Stolen Sisters and Brothers Awareness Movement. She's a social justice movement raising awareness on the human rights and crisis of missing, murdered, and exploited Indigenous people. She's coming to the stage to share her story, and I've heard wonderful things about it, and I'm excited to learn. April, I see you over here. Come on, yes.
Hello, everyone. I want to start off by saying I too am very nervous right now. This drums up a lot of things that I guess I haven't dealt with. My own experience growing up being targeted for racism. But I want to start by saying prayers up and tobacco down to the murder of our brother, George Floyd, and to his family and community, and for all of those across the world that have been affected by racialized police brutality and systemic oppression. My name is April Eve. I'm a member of the Mixed Cree First Nation, which is Treaty 8, northeastern Alberta. I'm one of many grassroots advocates here in Edmonton. Like my Black and Indigenous brothers and sisters, I myself am no stranger to racism and violence. It was about a year ago, I had arrived at work one morning and I had a few extra minutes to spare, so I decided to treat myself to a rare hot breakfast. I approached the counter of the food vendor, went to place my order, and out of nowhere, a woman who had been sitting in the food court at a table came up and she leaned against the counter and accused me of butting in line. She was Munyao Esqueo, a white woman, someone I'd never met before. I was initially surprised by her accusation because I like to pride myself on being a very polite person. So I turned to her and I said, "Excuse me, there was no one here." And that's when she raised her voice and said, "You squaw, you fucking squaw. I'm going to knock your fucking head off." And she repeatedly, at the top of her lungs, called me a squaw, "You fucking squaw," over and over again in this food court. And I was shocked by this. I was humiliated and confused, it was like I couldn't believe what was happening. But I stood my ground. I stood my ground and I turned to her and I said, "I don't know who you are or what you're going through, but you have no right to talk to me like that." You know, as an Indigenous woman, I believe that that word, that particular racial slur, squaw, is incredibly hateful and extremely violent because it has direct ties to the genocide of my people. Now, I've learned a lot from that experience. I filed a police report against her. Like I mentioned earlier, I've learned that I'm still affected by the trauma of my childhood being targeted for racism. This was in southern Saskatchewan. But I've also learned about the criminal code and what they deem as a hate crime and the difference between a hate crime and a hate incident. Now, this experience with this woman, it was a hate crime. Why? Because it met the criteria. She was not known to me. She called me a racial slur, and she threatened me with violence. Now, this woman is still at large. Who knows, what else she's done, how many other people she's harmed, but she was very comfortable saying that to me. And I'm very grateful to the teachings I've had from my elders and community members, because if I had been the April Eve of 10, 15 years ago, I may have reacted very differently. And it would have been me that would have been arrested, right? So part of what I wanted to share with you is something I brought here today, and I'm just going to grab it. I want to know if anyone here or those watching today knows what this is. A Confederate flag. Yes. How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel when you see one of these proudly displayed in Edmonton and other parts of our country? What does it represent to you? A symbol of patriotism? An act of rebellion? No. Or a symbol of hate? A symbol of hate with ties rooted in the history of slavery and genocide of our Black and Red Indigenous peoples. Now, I'm showing you this here today because I was literally just north of Edmonton a week ago, and I was in Morinville, and I had a relative I had to pick up. And as I was driving into the parking lot where we had agreed to meet, I noticed someone looking at me. It was a young man in a pickup truck in the drive-thru of the Tim Hortons. I didn't think anything of it. I went and parked my vehicle. And then next thing I noticed, the same guy in the truck comes and parks just a few feet from my vehicle. And I notice on the back of his truck 2 flagpoles, and this guy is proudly displaying Make America Great Again flag. He's proudly displaying the Confederate flag. And I'm like, what the, I couldn't believe it. And I sat there and I pretended not to notice. I was there by myself. My vehicle has an eagle feather and Indigenous decals on the side. That's most likely an Indigenous person's vehicle. And I don't know if that's why he was looking, but he sat there for a while, ended up driving away. And I have to be honest with you, I consider myself a strong woman, but I was incredibly unnerved by the sight of this. I've known since I was a child what this flag represents to many people. And I hope that there are elected leaders watching this today. And I want to challenge you to introduce in legislation a law that would ban symbols of hatred like this flag when given the opportunity. When are we going to stop tolerating symbols of hatred like this? When are we going to stop? I myself am guilty of it. I just sat there. I said nothing. I did nothing. I don't know. It's complicated. I don't know. I'm shocked to this day that there are people in this country that are not aware of the human rights crisis facing Indigenous peoples. And, I hope that people listening today, if you weren't aware of it before, you'll open your hearts, and join us in our fight for the same basic human rights as our fellow Canadians. I think we have an opportunity to make change and find ways to live together so that, like, my children don't have to grow up and feel uncomfortable when they see one of these, because it's legislation. It's not allowed. So with that said, I would like to, put this flag to rest. And I'm going to ask my friend Sonia to come up and assist me. This is what I'm calling a flag funeral. Thank you to all my relations.
Thank you, April. I'm sitting on the side right now, just knowing I'm about to come up. And here's an interesting thing. If you watched that just now and you didn't feel something, I'm not mad at you, by the way. But I think this is part of the problem, part of why representation on all levels is important. Because there's a high probability you've never seen a symbol that causes actual pain. Actual pain. Knowing what that is, and how many times I've seen it, and how many times I've had to have a conversation with the person wearing it proudly, and how much it hurts. And they have no idea. And you might not have an idea, but I want you to get an idea. Get an idea. That's what this is about. We're not just whining and fighting for fun. Visceral pain. Generationally. Trauma upon trauma. And those are slaps in the face. Next on the stage is a great friend. You guys know him because he often makes you laugh. But he's got a heart of gold and a crazy brain. And I'm excited to put Sterling Scott on the stage so he can share with you his pain. What's not supposed to rhyme.
First off, I want to say thank you to all the thousands of people that are paying attention to right now. I appreciate that you guys are coming together under one umbrella of being tired, of being sick and tired of the fact of all the innocent people that are dying. But let's be realistic. The simple idea that we have to put on this protest is ridiculous. We're literally asking people, can you stop killing us? And they're saying, but wait. How ridiculous is it that we are desensitized to the point where we can watch black people die and, like Jesse said, share that? It's out of control. And a lot of people come on my timeline and they say to me, well, Sterling, what can I do? And it's interesting because the white people and black people on my page both have the same question, but both pose it in different ways. When I get white people on my page, they are aggressive, like, what can I do to help? But my black people, they look at me like with hopelessness, saying, well, what can we do? A lot of people don't even like the idea of a protest or a rally. Nothing's gonna happen. You're gonna go up there and talk and no change will ever occur. Well, that's gonna end today. Because a lot of people that ask me, what can I do? Listen, because I'm not just talking to white people. I'm talking to all people of colors. You know why? Because you hate black people too. That's right, I said it. Asian, Indian, Middle Eastern, Mexican, you name it. How long does it take for you to find somebody in your family who hates black people? How many times have you heard the narrative that we're lazy, that we're violent, that we're stupid? And that's the problem. Because the narrative in your house is that we are not human. And as long as you are allowed to dehumanize us, well, then it's easy to kill us and nobody complains. You see, I'm here in Alberta, and I'm fortunate enough to have many friends of many different colors. And you know what I found out that was interesting? How many white people didn't meet a black person for their first time in their lives, and at what age they were at. Some of them were in their 30s. Some of them were in high school. And the only thing they ever knew about us was the negative stereotypes that they saw on television. And their parents, and what they taught them on how to fear us, how to hate us. And so those are people who are sitting out there saying, why do you say black people, Sterling? And why do you not say people of color? Well, I included all those races, and the only one I left out was white and First Nations. White, you know why we're talking to you. And First Nations, I didn't put you in there because nobody in this great country of Canada has been more disrespected than the First Nations people. You know what I'm talking about, Edmonton. Every last one of you watching right now have heard the negative and dirty stereotypes said about both black and First Nations, and you said nothing. And now we're here today, and you ask, what can we do? Well, it's quite simple. It's quite simple. It starts at home. It starts at home. Those of you who are truly anti-racist, truly asking the question on how can I help, it starts at home. It doesn't begin in the streets fighting with police. It begins in your Christmas dinner fighting with that weird uncle that says all kinds of things. You know what I'm talking about. How many friends of circles have you been at where they hear the N-word dropped and you go, it ain't that serious? But if it's not that serious, then how come it's perpetuated so much to the point that when we are dehumanized, they say, well, that's what they are. A do-rag doesn't make you a gangster, it just means he was trying to keep his hair nice. You know what I'm saying? When I walk down the street and you cross it, you fear me for robbing you, but you go into the bank that gives you malpractice loans and takes away your house, but you fear us. You talk about how police are not all bad. Well, how many black cops have knees in the backs of white children killing them? None. Why is that? Because we have no value to you. So if you want to change what's happening with us, it starts at home. It starts with your circle. It starts by standing up for us when we ain't there, when social media doesn't see you. But it doesn't end there. Let me talk to my black people. We need to work too. Yes, black people, we need to work too. You know why? We need to end that crabs in a bucket mentality. We need to stop holding each other down. We need to stop treating each other the way that they portray us. How many people that are black know and say things like, man, I don't want to hire a black guy because they're going to be late. How dare you? How dare you? The United States of America was built on the backs of blacks, and then when we're finished, you want to call us lazy. What the hell is your problem? We need to work together as a community, black people, build each other up, give us strength. Why is it that in every neighborhood and every city I go to, you can find a little Italy, you can find a Chinatown, you can even find a Greek town. But whenever you find a black neighborhood, it's called the ghetto. This is the narrative we need to work together to change. And I know a lot of people right now are thinking about pride and all other kinds of things that are going on. Hear me out. I am not trying to tell you that your situation is any different or your situation doesn't matter. But listen to me. You don't clean your house by starting in the bathroom and the kitchen at the same time. You start in one place, and this is the room that we're in. And if we can come together as a community for once, if we can come together as a community and fix this problem, well, then we built a community that can take on any problem. So let's start here. Let's start today. And I know a lot of people will say to me, well, Sterling, what about all the protests that went violent, and what about all these things? This is why we shouldn't have it. Well, let's talk about protests for a second. When you watch Pride Parade, you see a lot of government officials on the front line, right? When you go to Folk Fest, you see a lot of the mayors and MLAs, they show up and speak, am I right? Yeah. But let me ask you a question. Kerry West, I hosted that. You know what I saw? 5 military police with firearms, semi-automatic rifles, walking through our crowds with children. With children. And you say to me, why am I here? Listen to me, if you shake a can of Coke and you open it, it explodes. Do you blame the can of Coke, or do you blame the person who shook it? Well, black people are tired of being that can of Coke. And if you want to be mad at somebody, look at who's been shaking us. This problem is not new. This problem is now being viewed. And that's how you can make the change. I'm out of here.
What happens when you give us the stage? What happens when you let us speak? What happens when we can be heard? Goosebumps, truth, direction. That's what we're doing here. And we appreciate you tuning in. And I'm going to take a moment to let some people know out there who might not know, because not all the time the people we want to tune in. I just got a text message from our mayor, Don Iverson, saying powerful stuff. Thank you. I said, do you mind if I share that? Because it's good to know who knows. He said, yeah, I think it's my turn to listen. Tanya Rogers is coming on stage next with her story, her experiences. Not born in the country, but definitely feels what the country can do to you. Tanya.
I would apologize for having paper in my hand, but I'm kind of tired of apologizing, so. I deliberated over the appropriate approach for addressing this audience. I contemplated digging up statistics, rifling through news articles, researching legislation and processes that negatively impact Black communities, but then I paused. I figured that if you're tuned in to a forum such as this, then I can safely make the assumption that on some level, you're actively invested in making progress and you can access that information yourself. I also equally think that it is somewhat sadistic to build a system that is exclusive and inflicts pain on another group, sustain and benefit from that system, find protection in that system, then ask those most disenfranchised by the system to research and find the fixes for you. We don't ask victims of fraud to provide financial counseling to the fraudster, nor would we ask a survivor of sexual abuse to provide counseling to the rapist. Yet society has normalized asking those who have fallen victim of racial prejudices and systematic injustices to offer the solutions without actively doing the work themselves. I abandoned the PowerPoint idea. I contemplated instead on what exactly brought me here. How does the woman raised on an island that boasts of tolerance and whose national anthem says every creed and race finds an equal place wind up on a platform addressing racism and injustice? My introduction to racism took place when I first moved to South Carolina. It began with cautions as to what establishments I should avoid for my safety because they proudly flew the Confederate flag. It threaded through as I began to tutor in a predominantly Black middle school and held conversations with educators. And they told me more and more about the significant gaps in funding. It showed up again as a peer mentor to a young man, a member of the Geechee people, direct descendants of African slaves. And he's telling me that he's the first of his family to ever make it to college. This was the first time I was faced with my privilege, coming from a country that was governed by people that looked like me, with access to healthcare and an education system and other systems built in my best interest, and I took it for granted. Still, these were just learnings. I had never before considered myself an activist, and I still don't. But then I became a mother, and that changes things. My first son was born in South Carolina. We lived in Texas for a year before moving to Canada. By the time he was 2 years old, I can recount at least 3 instances where I was asked to leave a space while holding him in my arms for no other reason beyond my kind was not welcomed. That little boy is now 15 years old. He is smart. He is handsome. He loves basketball. He can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 15 seconds. He makes a great omelette. He will still run through the sprinklers with his younger siblings. And more often than I may give him credit for, he blurts out musings that display such in-depth thought and wisdom that I momentarily forget that those words fall from juvenile lips. My 15-year-old son is black, and he stands 6'3" tall, and as a mother, I am scared, and my confidence is eroded. I'm not one to coddle my children. My role is to provide my son with the tools for success. But how do I prepare him for a system that at its best barely tolerates his presence and at its worst deliberately and systematically plots his demise? I feel unequipped as a mother for most conversations. I am expected to explain concepts to my children that are not reflective of my own upbringing. My daughter asked me earnestly, "Mom, my best friends are all white. Do you think they understand that I am black?" And with her questions, the words of Nina Simone began ringing through my ear. Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Please don't let their blackness be misunderstood, mistaken as a threat, misjudged as ignorant, misrepresented as worthless. How does one explain a black experience? Why are explanations still necessary? Why was questions of why is he being arrested or what did he do ever appropriate when addressing a murder victim? Why should I ever have to justify simply wanting to be alive? But this is Canada, and blacks traverse these lands with far more security than those south of the border. And it's not because our systems are better structured for our success, but truthfully, because the systems of oppression have chosen our indigenous brothers and sisters as the preferred target. We ride the coattails of indifference towards an entire people. Our racism here is polite. The type that would allow the old gentleman at the car show to smile and warmly invite my black babies to sit in his vintage car for photos, the one that sports the Confederate flag on the hood. Because it's just history. And like many other racist microaggressions, we can disregard the implications. While I commended those today that are willing to lend an ear, the silence of so many others, specifically non-people of color, has left a pit in my stomach. I pray that among you sits a pool of allies that would speak up for my children if their lives depended on it. I stand here as a black woman who is emotionally drained and hurt and traumatized by images of men that look like my father and my uncles and my cousins and men that I've loved, murdered under circumstances that I'm confident their white counterparts would have survived. I stand as a mother, scared and desperately wanting to protect her children, constantly seeking the balance between giving them the tools to survive, but without wanting to plant more seeds of bitterness in their hearts. And finally, I stand in solidarity with every looter, every marcher, every protester, and every fighter with the same vigor that I would support our troops that have fought for our freedom. Because make no mistake, what we are witnessing today is in fact a fight for freedom. I am Tanya Rogers, and I am sick and tired of having to say that Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Tanya. Let me tell you one thing that I really like about this small room I'm in right now. That I can sit on the side and tears can run down my face and everyone gets it. I don't have to explain it because we live it and we know it. Next on the stage, we have Stephanie Harp. Stephanie Harp is an international advocate for murdered, missing, exploited, and indigenous peoples. She is recognized by the United Nations Program Coordinator. She is a murder attempt survivor. Murdered mother, Ruby Ann McDonald. She was recently asked by the United Nations to attend the biggest youth conference in the world in Malaysia. This is Stephanie. The stage is yours.
I do this a lot. I travel all over and I speak all over, but I'm tired of speaking. What I'm looking for is now action. For all of us. I am someone who was almost murdered, attacked from behind, and almost choked to death. I couldn't breathe. But I fought for my life, and now I fight for others' life, and I'm here today to tell you that we are resilient in this struggle, that you will not silence us, that we will continue to share our truth. We are movers, we are shakers, and that's what's important right now. And we need to realize the fight isn't between you and me. The fight is out there with those that keep failing us. And that's all there is to it. Now, with what's going on and the world getting shut down and COVID going on, let me tell you something. In an overpopulated world, mental health is an issue, straight out. Straight out. So this is something we need to address. We can't tell you what to do. You're not well enough to make that decision. You need this time of shutting down to search within your soul and address the anger and the hate and the racism and the stereotypes you harbor. Go to your rooted pain. That's where it starts. Once you deal with your rooted pain, all of a sudden, you're digging out something beautiful again. And you're rooting out the good, you're rooting out the bad. And then all of a sudden it comes to your heart. And then all of a sudden you're saying and feeling good things about yourself, your people, your community, your family. And you're sitting down with your little ones at home and telling them, this is what's going on in the world, but this is who we really are. And let me tell you, love is the most powerful thing in this world. Not the hate. We always will rise above that. But we need to do it collectively, together, one voice, one unit, one world, and have that realization that we should not be failing one another. My mother was murdered, and her murder walked, and I had to watch that. My mother was disregarded because she was Indigenous. Many of us are. We survive genocide day in, day out. It does not stop for us. This is something we survived every day. All of us. And I'm telling you right now, we know how all of our colored people feel. We know how each other feel at this time. So we need you to check your privilege. Check it. Talk about it. Address it. And if we can just get to the real point of it, and the point is this: there is profit in all of our suffering. There is profit in all of our suffering all over the world. And most of our suffering as Indigenous peoples and as people of color is what they want the most: land, bodies of water, control, real estate, all of these things. Okay? In a world right now where everything's shut down, we're realizing what we really need to survive in this world, and that is each other. This does not matter anymore. This does not matter anymore. No longer does this matter. We need each other to survive. We need you to get properly educated with people who have lived experience. I have survived every major fucking trauma in this country as an Indigenous person. You name it, I've survived it. I have not let any kind of crutch take me down. I broke that crutch and I ran with it. Now the whole world has heard my voice. What are you doing? The whole world knows my mother's name. They are listening, they are paying attention. What are you going to do after we end this video here tonight? You have to hold yourself accountable. And this day and age of 2020, here we are still talking about it. It's now time for action. What are you going to do collectively? We shouldn't be gathering here just all these people of color here and our non-Indigenous allies. It should, all of us, what are you doing? So if you're not well, deal with that. Get well, and then once you're well enough and you're not harboring all this hate and this anger, and then you come to people like us, come to our colored brothers and sisters and say, hey, I need to ask you some questions. I want to know about this. What can I do? How can I help? You do not allow the systematic racism keep failing us. You do something, you write letters, you protest, you do everything that you can. You get all non-Indigenous people in a room and you do something. We are not the kind of people here to wait for the opportunity. We are the people who create it. Straight out. Okay? I'm done. I'm tired of this. I do not speak anymore. I move forward. I'm a program coordinator at the Institute for the Advancement of Aboriginal Women who are doing the work. We do the work. We just need you to take your part now. Thank you very much.
That's a great question. What are you doing? I'm seeing a lot of comments and they're great. Like, this is amazing. This is powerful. This isn't a TV show. I want you to remember that. You might be sitting there with your family, and I love that you are, by yourself with some friends. And like, this is good. And you're right, it is good. When you put black people, Indigenous people, and people of color on stage, it's always good. Do it more. But it's not a TV show, right? What are you gonna do after is the question. And I'll have some suggestions, and so will we all for you, but that's also not it. So now what? What do we do? Help us. Help yourself. I'm gonna help you a little bit with my next guest, Chris Attababy. He is a black transgender human and athlete. He's from Uganda, and he came here as a swimmer, and he won a swimming competition, and he wasn't able to return home for fear of prosecution. He's here in Canada and hoping that this is the place that can take care of him like we're trying to take care of everybody else. Welcome, Chris, to the stage. Do your thing.
Killing black people, Z. Killing trans people, Z. Police brutality, Z. I didn't plan to stay. I didn't think I'll stay. I didn't think I'll be disowned by them. But here I am now. Here I am now. I stayed. Here I am now. Sing this song to you. Raise up and shine. Stand up and walk. Know that in life, each and every step you make counts. Just look how far I've come. Where I am now. Please don't give up. I didn't plan to stay. I didn't think I'll stay. I didn't think I'll be disowned by them. But here I am now. Here I am now. I stayed. Here I am now, sing this song to you. Back in my mind, each and every day. I think about home, I think about my mom, I think about my friends, yeah. I can't play with them anymore, I can't eat with them anymore, 'cause I stayed to save my life. I didn't plan to stay, I didn't think I'll stay, I didn't think I'll be disowned by them, but here I am now, here I am now, here I am now, here I am now, in Canada. Yes, I'm here. I come from Uganda. I was born in a family of 21 brothers and sisters. I come from a very huge family. My dad just accepted me the way I am few days ago on Easter Day. And I want to hug him, I can't hug him. I want to hug my mom, I can't hug my mom. In the first place, they kicked me out because of being trans. I'm just the same as everybody else. I thought Canada was great. I thought there was no racism in Canada. But that is when, it is in Canada that I knew I'm black. It is in Canada that I knew I'm black. When white people go to Africa, they're treated so well. My family would give you, my mama will feed you every time, will wanna touch your hair, will wanna hug you. My mama will wanna prepare dinner for you, lunch, breakfast every day. When my mama listen to this right now, how is my mama gonna feel? When my sister, who's struggling back home for who she is, how is she gonna feel? I work with Anti-Racism Council here, and I've been in a lot of encounters. I'm one of the people, one of the few cutie BIPOC, black people in the LGBT community who stood up and voiced out police and military known to march in pride. But we were criticized. We were blamed of Edmonton Pride Festival cancellation, but we didn't cancel the Pride. I want to use this platform to let you all know we did not cancel the Pride. We didn't want Pride to cancel. We just wanted an inclusive Pride where a trans man like me can voice, where I can speak and say no military and police in our Pride, no yet. When black people are being murdered, when trans people, black trans men are being murdered and nobody's saying shit about it. Media is quiet about it. When black trans women are being murdered, we are quiet about it, right? But why? Because we are humans like you. I'm not different. I'm a man like Jesse, I'm a man like, and then that doesn't mean I don't have the feminine energy, right? You find me in that picture, I expose myself the way I am, but that doesn't mean you should put an end on my life. Police recently, we were in the house, my friend's house, police recently came. I was sitting down, this guy came and he's like, oh, you're doing drugs and smoking weed. I said, I know it's my right not to answer any question from you. The police is Asian because he said I'm Asian, by the way, I'm not black. He said it to me. I stepped away and sat away, like kept my distance. By then I'm like in a freeze mode. Because before I came, the police raided the Gay Pride event. At age of eight, I had a gunshot look in my, I had a gunshot point in my head at 8 years old. In Uganda, military police are taking over the country, so corrupt. LGBTQ folks don't have anything to take. And you come here looking for peace, looking for love, looking for unity. But one day, you pop up on Facebook and a black trans man is dead. A black trans woman has been gunned down. In Florida, he was killed. He was gunshot. He was brutally arrested. He was highly beaten. This happened. We're tired of hearing that, right? I'm human like you. And this, by the way, it has to end. Like, we have to put an end on this now and forever. You have to do your part. Whoever is watching me, it starts with you. You have to step up when black trans men are being murdered and the media is not saying shit. You have to step up when black trans women are being killed and you're not saying shit. You have to step up when indigenous people land is being taken and you are walking smoothly, finally on here. A lot of privilege. I am privileged. Right here, I am privileged than a newcomer, than a refugee who just came in. Because I have a place to stay, I have a house, right? I have food on my table. But not every newcomer has food on their table. Right? Every refugee has food on their table. So that puts me in a different, privileged position. I'm even privileged enough to have this podium. There are a lot of voices. There are a lot of voices out there who desire to be here, but are not able to. But I'm here. So I'm going to use this platform. I'm going to use this platform to voice out whatever is happening, to ask you to do your part, to ask you to not stay silent. You know, to ask you to use the privilege you have. I'm going to go ask for the job here in Canada, here in Edmonton, ask it with a white person. I'm not going to get the job. She's going to get the job. Guys, refugees, we walk to look for different jobs. We are bounced, even in political offices. The racism is there. The racism is everywhere, even at our places of work. Even in our co-workers, even in how we dress, even in our wardrobe, it smells at us. It's like stinky. Like, this has to stop. Like, why do you hate me because of my skin color? Why? I didn't choose to be black. You choose to work for institutions that oppress black people. You choose to work for institutions that kill black people. You choose to work for institutions that benefit from the oppression of black people. You choose to stay silent when a black man can't breathe. Before I came, I saw a lady who was pregnant, she was a black woman. She was pregnant. I think she was expecting, I don't know. But in my head, I'm like, oh my God, where is she gonna, what is gonna happen next? Look at, I'm just thinking about the little baby. In the moment, the entire time I was driving, I'm thinking about the little baby. I'm like, okay, the world, how can you create a better place for the baby to come, to not actually ever listen to this, like a protest about black lives, like a protest about black trans people, and just be himself or herself like anybody else, because we want peace. Like, I came out of hatred and I'm literally sitting in hatred right now. To our LGBT community members, you've been silent. And that is killing a lot of trans people. That is killing a lot of the QT BIPOC community. Because from oppression, from the depression, from the media not giving attention to what really people need to hear, but then you give a lot of attention to things, I don't know. What can I say? Trans people deserve to be respected. Trans people deserve to be heard. Black trans people deserve to be protected by government. Government officials, this come to you. You have to make laws. I can't be paying my hormones. I can't be working to pay my hormones. I can't be paying my hormones. That's not human. Is that human? How can I be paying to be myself? How? That is the first start. Why I'm talking about racism is in different ways. Different ways because it is only a minority who can't afford $100 for testosterone. And it's only a minority marginalized people who work like part-time and can't actually afford things like that. But that is me, I'm paying for myself, actually, I'm paying to live. This is starting in not even in our home, but with your heart. Like ask yourself, what have I done for my people? Ask yourself when you see a lot of youth, indigenous youth on streets with who are high, who are on drugs. Ask yourself, what have you done? Because that is the generation. All people, you guys are gonna die, I'm saying it. Because you're gonna die, that is age, we're aging. Right? The people we're having, the indigenous youth, 13 years of age to how long? 25 years of age, they are on street drunk. What have you done for the generation that is coming after you? Stop being selfish. Stop thinking about yourself. That shit hurts. It hurts. My heart has been in pain for a lot of time. Today, it ends here. Today, I'm gonna walk off this stage free, and I'm gonna stand with my people. But I ask you to do your role, right? For 4 years, I've been advocating for LGBTQ refugees. For 4 years, I've been trying to make the community, the society, a better place. And what is the community giving back right now? What are you giving back? I'm a newcomer here, 4 years. But you who have lived here for the entire life, you've seen indigenous kids on the streets, right? Drugs. And you literally, you're the first person to dial 911. They're fighting. You're the first person to dial 911 to come and take the kids away. Like you're the first person. Because you're privileged enough, you even fear being around someone who's... you even fear being around a black person. Like you literally, one time I was in the elevator and this white guy was there. I'm like here with my friend, with my homie, I'm like, wait for it. So it's like, oh my God, the lady was like holding the bag so tight, her bag like, and literally, you see how I'm standing? The elevator was too huge and we're only 3 people. And she's here. And then I'm like, taking up my space. Like seriously. Why do you have that fear? What am I gonna do to you? I don't own a gun. You own guns, right? I don't own shit. You own shit. I don't own a house. You own a house. I don't own shit. Like, I don't own anything. You own a lot of things. You need to share them. The world is ending, COVID-19 is taking us all. And that is real. The world is ending. Share what you have with those who don't have. And share that with black people. Share that with the marginalized people. Be a voice of the voiceless. Use your voice to speak up. Use your voice. Use your fucking voice. Excuse my French, but use your motherfucking voice. We're tired of the silence. Silence is killing us. You need to stop. You need to stop. You need to take a break and listen. You need to take a break and listen to us. Listen to our voices. And stand up. Stand up when we call you to stand up. Don't wait for things to happen here and you start checking in with me. How are you? How is your day? Don't check in with me if you didn't check in with me 2 days ago.
Thank you, Chris. So I see that there's still thousands of people watching, and I thank you for that. And if I'm catching you right now, and you were just about to tune out to do something else, I want you to think to yourself, whatever that thing was, is it more important than this? Whatever it was. If you're going to pick up a friend, she might be a little late. If you got a show you wanted to watch, you can watch it tomorrow. unless, of course, those things are more important than basic human rights for everybody. Next on the stage, Katherine Swampy. She's a mother of 5, PhD student. She has her master's degree in public administration, Bachelor of Arts in economics and political studies, management design, fashion design diploma. She sits on several boards, Masquerades Two-Spirit Society. She does a lot of stuff, but I don't want to take her time, so I'd like her to speak on what she wants to speak on. It's over here. I'm going.
Do you want your glasses? Nanaskamaw, mamatawi mau ki se manito, hai into temtik anochki skau. Nipapakwan yusin, into wow se siwin. Kiam, igay nantawi temtik. My name is Katherine Swampy. I am from Samson Cree Nation, and I'm here to speak as, I guess, an advocate for Indigenous people, for people of color. And I would like to start off by acknowledging that we are on Treaty 6 territory, and I would like to thank Jesse for inviting me to speak here, and for all of the speakers that went before me. I'd like to thank everybody who's tuning in right now. You know, I like to share gratitude before I get into everything. It helps me find my calm. So, first, everyone stay safe out there. You know, there is a pandemic. I guess we found somewhat of a privilege being in Canada and having universal health care. We felt safe enough to come out here and gather. We are staying socially distant, 6 feet apart. Some are wearing masks, and nobody here is sick tonight. But getting back at why we're here. So, when Europeans came to this side of the world, to Turtle Island, when they came here, it was for economic reasons. They wanted to trade. And they came here and they traded with us. And in the beginning, everything was fine. You know, we had a great trading system, a great economic system, where it was beneficial for Indigenous people, and it was beneficial for Europeans. And Indigenous people have a kindness about them. Kisewatsuwin. It's how you say kindness and empathy, you know. And when we seen them struggling and starving, we welcomed them. We integrated them into our society. We helped them survive our winters, which when you see people out there living in those cold -40 temperatures, I want you to think, how did Indigenous people survive that? Because we did. And not only did we survive that, we helped the settlers survive that. We helped them. We welcomed them. We loved them. And what did they do? Well, they set up governments. They formed governments. Governments that were built on oppression, exploitation, and genocide. You know, they had modern, or not modern, but medical warfare. They had medical warfare. Tuberculosis, smallpox, to kill us off. And if that didn't work, war, famine. And if that didn't work, residential schools, sticking us on reserves. And if that didn't work, 60 scoop. And if that didn't work, systemic racism, institutionalized racism. They keep taking our children. Jesse mentioned that I'm a mother of 5. Well, I had 5 children biologically. I am a mother of 11. Because I am doing my part to get our Indigenous children out of care. Because that system That system was not built to help us. It was built to enforce genocide. You heard them talking about the children in the streets. Well, that's where they feel safe. They feel safe on the streets, doing drugs, drinking alcohol, because that's where they feel welcome. Because if you would take the time to talk to anybody living on the streets, you'll realize they are the kindest people in the world. They are far more kind than people who are going to church. I get worked up, you know. I gotta send a lot of love to my husband, you know, he's gotta have a lot of patience. I freak out about what women have to go through. I'm a strong female woman, and I freak out, and I get upset, and I get worked up on what women have to go through. I am a strong Indigenous woman, Nehi Osqueo, and I get mad and worked up on what Indigenous people have to go through. I freak out, and I have to do something. And of all of the things that I had just mentioned that we endured, resilience comes up. Resilience is in our blood. I was talking to a friend who is a white man almost a week ago. He wanted to tell me about how bad his weekend was because he had crashed his car. And Chris, if you're watching, hey, I'm telling you the story. And he was totally stopped in his tracks because my weekend was about burying my brother-in-law. My husband's younger brother was murdered in Calgary a few weeks ago. And when I mentioned that, he was so shocked and upset that he was going to tell me this bad story. And I didn't mean to overcompensate on tragedy. Oh, tragedy. It's just like, my life is a tragedy. You know, I am a walking tragic story. Let me emphasize a little more on that. My husband's brother was murdered. 2 years ago, my husband's older brother was murdered. A few years before that, my niece was murdered. The year before that, my older sister was murdered. The year before that, my other older sister died in the RCMP station of Musquecheese. And the year before that, my husband's younger brother, who we raised as our own son, had committed suicide. And suicide runs rampant in our communities. But why wouldn't it? When we don't belong in our own country, why wouldn't it? And all week since the protests in the United States have been taken up, I have been getting messages from people who I thought were my allies. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of white friends out there who stand strong with me, and I see you and I appreciate you. But all week I had to deal with white fragility because they've never encountered anything hard in their life. So seeing something on TV where they look like the bad guy makes them so sad. And oh my God, they had to deal with this for about a week. And they tell me about it. They tell me about it and they say, you don't know what it feels like. I've been hurt all week long. Well, you know what? Try enduring it your entire fucking life.
Yes.
I need to calm myself.
Don't.
I need to share with everybody the story behind my resiliency. They call me the Queen of Guillaume. Guillaume in Cree means to let it go. It means that you have reached a level, you've surpassed a lot of struggles, that this hardship doesn't compare and you can let it go. And that's me, you know, loosely translating it, because Cree is really hard to translate into English. And I a lot. I let it go. And that was actually my advice to a lot of the friends who are reaching out to me to tell me how hard this has been for them, to just ignore it, the way I do. Racist comments on my page, on my Instagram, on my TikTok, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, ignore them. Because that's what you do to adapt. That's how you cope with all of this hate. Because, if I decided I was going to say something each and every single time somebody said something to me, I would be so exhausted. And I am so exhausted. But I have children that I have to raise. I have a PhD that I have to write. I'm still working. I'm doing a lot of stuff. I don't have time to feed into the negativity. I have to get over it. And how do I do that? With my culture. Because everywhere I go, people are telling me that my culture is dying. Your culture is dying, your culture is dying, your language is dying. Well, I'm learning my language because I don't want it to die. I can dance, and I teach young women how to dance because I don't want it to die. I practice my culture. My husband, my children, my family, we all practice our culture because we want to keep it alive. We don't want to be on the streets doing drugs because that is genocide. That is the genocide that they're pushing on us, and that's where they want us to be, and we don't want to be there. We don't want our children to be there. We don't want our family to be there. And it's hard. It's hard to deal with people like that every single day. But we get through it. I wanted to share a song. This song is our grandmother's song. It's about healing. And we use it in times of mourning, in times of sickness, times of celebration. And it helps us. It helps us to heal. Because when it comes down to it, the murders, the racism, everything we've been going through, we can scream and shout it all day long. So we pray and we sing because people keep asking me, what can we do? Just as they were saying before. Well, number one, representation. You can do representation. How many Indigenous people do we have in the House of Commons? How many Indigenous people do we have in the legislature? How many Indigenous people do we have in City Hall? How many Indigenous people do we have as CEOs, as board members, as directors, as leaders? Because I know we can lead. I'm out there leading. And I meet Indigenous leaders along the way. And I'm so thankful for them. They give me strength to see them. I stand with them in solidarity. You want to know what you can do? Legislate. Just like they were saying, make laws that make hate crimes actually go away. Instead of allowing people to murder both Black people and Indigenous people, when they go to court, why don't you actually prosecute them? Why don't you actually put them in jail? Why are they getting away with murdering us? You know, how many people have actually had to sit with their children and talk to them? If you run out of gas on the side of the road, if you get a flat tire, you call me as soon as possible. I don't care what time it is. I don't care where you are. I don't want you dying in some farmer's field because it's not safe. When Colton Boushie had died and Gerald Stanley was able to walk with that,
They set precedents that it was okay. There's a trial going on. And I'm gonna share the information. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for sharing this, but it's on June 17th. This is for the 2 Indigenous men that were murdered out by Saddle Lake. Well, that's happening on June 17th, and I'm gonna go there because I wanna make sure they know. I want them to open their eyes. I want our leaders to see what's going on with our brothers and sisters in the South, and I want them to fear. I want them to be afraid. I want them to think we are a nose hair, little teeny tiny pin drop away from having this erupt here, because you can see us standing together. You can see that their divide and conquer tactics are no longer working. And I want them to think we need to set new precedents before they set it for us. Get the thumb scotch in a while. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that you're still with us. We got 2 more. Next up, Antonio Mohammed is a local Red Seal pastry chef and entrepreneur, motivational public speaker in Edmonton with 2 platforms. One on being anti-racism, and the other one is a surprise. It's not on here, but we're gonna find out. She was born in Calgary, and she relocated to Edmonton, and I'm gonna give her the stage right now to let us know what's going on.
Awesome. First of all, I just wanted to take a minute here to thank Jesse for inviting me to be a part of this panel and this discussion. It's hugely important, not only for myself, but for everybody that's here to understand the gravity of this situation and what we're facing right now. Sadly, as somebody that was born and raised in Calgary, I've received or been a victim of a lot of racist acts in my life. And I'm here to talk about what are you supposed to do, or what should you do, or how are you supposed to feel when it comes from people that you're supposed to trust. It's ingrained in you that the first number you call when you're in trouble is 911. But what happens to you when you call 911 and the people that are there to help you, or supposed to help you, villainize you and victimize you? And they say to you, How do we know you didn't set this up to recoup and get some money? I'll tell you my story here. My story is in May 5th, 2013, at 5 a.m. when I leave my townhouse and I go down to my car. I'm ready to go to work and start the day. I go to my car, and on the driver's side of my car, what do I see? Somebody's come along and they've sketched the word nigger onto the side of my car. Nigger. Does that offend you? Coming from me? Because everybody seems to be okay with it in all the top 40 radio stations. Everybody seems to be okay with it on all the YouTube channels. Everybody seems to be okay with it when it comes from a mainstream rapper or superstar. But when I say it, when I tell my story, everybody censors me. You can't say that word. That's gonna offend somebody. Fool, it offends me. I come down to my car, not only do I find the word nigger, but I find swastikas carved in to the hood of my car, to the trunk, to the 2 panels on the passenger side. I find the headlights smashed out. So I go back into my townhouse and I phone the police, 911. It's 5:30 a.m. They tell me they don't have anybody that's working the normal hours, that I have to wait until 8 a.m. so that when somebody's in the precinct, they can send somebody out to take my report and have a look at my car. So because I'm in so much shock, I don't have anybody that I can turn to at this point. I'm dealing with this on my own. So I thank the person on the other line, and I'm like, okay, I guess so. So what do I do after that? Well, I take some time to collect myself, and I call the police back again, and I get somebody else on the other line at the dispatch. Finally, this person says to me, well, yeah, it sounds like a crime's been committed. I'm gonna send somebody out right away. Well, thanks. That kind of made sense to me an hour ago when I called you at 5:30. But here we are at 6:30, and now somebody else is finally telling me, hey, guess what? A crime did occur. 10 minutes later, I have 2 officers at my door. They're ready to take my story, and they're ready to take pictures of my vehicle. When I ask if they can take fingerprints, they tell me they can't take fingerprints of my car because it's been raining, it's been compromised, because I've already been down there and I've touched the driver's side door, and maybe all they're gonna do is find my prints, and what can they do in that case? So I said, okay, I guess that makes sense. So I'll tell you this, the long and the short of it is, their investigation was open for 3 days. 3 days. We had a suspect because prior to this incident, I had some neighbors that lived next door where I had an incident with them where I had to phone the police to intervene because they were threatening my life. They were calling me a packy. They were telling me they were going to climb over the balcony to kill me and come into my apartment. Yet again, the police get there. They don't issue an order of restraint. They don't do anything against those people. They tell me that instead of laughing at them for calling me a packy, that I should have just stayed quiet and stayed in my apartment because maybe I escalated it. I don't know. Maybe I did. I don't think I did. Maybe I did, in somebody's mind. So that was my first interaction with these neighbors. 2 weeks after that first interaction, they were evicted from the townhouse complex. 2 months after their eviction, my car was vandalized. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together and figure out what's happened to my vehicle and who's done it. But within 3 days, Calgary police comes back to me. They've said, we've closed this investigation. Why? Have you arrested somebody? Have you charged somebody? What's going on? No, they haven't done any of that. They're closing the investigation because there's no technical witnesses. Nobody's there to eyeball these people and point them out and say, those are the people that vandalized this woman's car. They don't have video in the complex. They don't have anything except for me saying, I think it was these people. Followed up with a police report from about a month ago now where these people were harassing me. No, the police turn to me and they say, we can't help you because no crime was committed. This is not a technical crime. So, I still to this day have not learned why hate crimes was never called out to investigate this, why it was never escalated, and what is it about this situation that is not necessarily a crime. Because since relocating to Edmonton, not only have I gone on to school, I got 2 scholarships while I was there. I've been the pastry chef to Beyonce's formation tour. I've gone on to do some great and some successful things. But even in all that time, in the 7 years now that I've been in Edmonton, I've had the police trail me and pull me over 3 times. I've had neighbors call the police on me 4 times for the most ridiculous things. In one instance, one lady that was parking next to me at my apartment complex, somebody put a happy face in the snow on her windshield. She thought that was vandalism and mischief, so she phoned the police and said, "Oh, this brown girl that parked next to me must have done this." What I can't entertain is the police thinking that that's even enough of an issue for them to come to my house, bang on my door at 10:30 at night, like I've just robbed a bank or I've killed somebody, just because some lady is ticked off that somebody put a happy face on the hood of her car in the snow. So, what do you do in these cases? These cases where people that are supposed to be protecting you are harassing you. In another instance, I had the police follow me into a Shoppers Drug Mart. They came into the parking lot with their sirens blasting, with their lights blaring. I thought some major criminal had come in and something happened in one of the other stores in the shopping complex. But no, they were there for me. Little 5'4", all 98 pounds if I'm lucky, me. I'm a threat to Edmonton police? And what was my crime? Because I was driving down the Anthony Henday when it started snowing, and 3/4 of my plate was covered. They thought that was enough of a reason to rip into the Shoppers Drug Mart parking lot like I was a criminal, follow me into the Shoppers Drug Mart, and harass me in front of all of the other shoppers, telling me I needed to put everything down and go back to my car to answer their questions, to prove that I had insurance, to prove that my plates were registered. Because there was snow on my plate? I'm sorry, I still to this day don't understand. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna give up. No, that just inspires me to do more of these events, to speak more, to educate people. And when people say, what can we do? How can we help you? Well, you know what? Pick up your goddamn phone. I don't call you a lot, but when I do call you, you better fucking know it's urgent and that I need your back. Because how many times have I called people that have said they're gonna be there that aren't? So if you truly wanna help, you wanna be a part of the solution, be there. That's number 1. Number 2, do not ever minimize our experiences. And do not ever minimize racism. Because how many times do I get to hear, oh, at least you're lucky you're in Canada, it's not that bad. Fuck you, it's not that bad. It's fucking horrible. My first racist experience was at 4 years old. 4. Should any 4-year-old know what a nigger or a packy or a chink is? Or even know those words? No. But that's the Alberta I grew up in. That's Calgary. And sadly, that's Edmonton. And there are very, very few people that have done anything to change my mind. And I suppose that's part of my challenge and part of the reason I'm here tonight, is to challenge not only my fellow speakers and everybody else that's here, to challenge the people that are watching, the people that really want to help, support, and see change, to follow through, to do that, and to be there. I'm gonna close this with one final thought, in that I attended a virtual funeral this morning for a little girl that was taken away way too soon in one of the most tragic ways possible. And at the end of that funeral, her mom was speaking about grief. And how do you help somebody that's going through grief? Because a lot of people just want to step up and they just want to insert opinions and their stories and how they think you should feel and how they think you should be handling it. But the best thing that she said, when somebody's handling grief or when somebody's experiencing something, how can you help them? You close your mouth, you open your ears, you open your heart, and you open your mind. And that's all you can do. And then you lend your support. 110%. You give that support wholeheartedly. Believe it or not, some of that support might even be physical. Somebody like me that goes out to some of these events, I might need somebody to come with me that makes me feel safe. And how many times have I called somebody and again, they haven't picked up? So that's my biggest challenge, is if you are really going to help and you really want to be a part of the solution and try to fix this, step up and do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like saying this right now because I don't have all the answers all the time. Rarely, actually, but the ones I do have, I'm pretty confident about. But I got questions right now because as a black man on the sidelines, I still don't know what to do with the feelings I get every single time I hear the N-word. It doesn't matter who it's delivered by. They feel like little whips, and I hate it. And I don't have the answer, but I'm just telling those who are watching, words, they matter. They are powerful, delivered from whoever. And it's a question I need answered, and I'm sure I'll have some help from my wonderful black folks on the side. Just a question. We have an event that I'd like to talk about, since there's some ears out there. It's a Convoy for Action. National Inquiry, Calls for Justice 231. It's tomorrow between 11 and 1 p.m. It's a cars, what's that called? A convoy. Convoy for Action. And it's happening tomorrow, and there'll be details that I'll put on the page so you guys can see what it is. But just so you know, that's what I'm putting up there shortly. We've had all the feels. We've heard the stories. And people have told me they're crying and they have goosebumps and they're very excited and happy that they were tuning in, and so are we. But what do you do with these things? There's a reason why I have Nomadic to come take the anchor position, because I want to make sure you have a second to get some pen and paper, iPad, phone, whatever it is. But it's time to not just feel it, but it's time to actually do it. I welcome Nomadic onto the stage right now to do what he does in a very tangible way. King, take the stage.
Appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Blessings and greetings, everybody. I'd just like to recognize that I am on Treaty 6 territory, and I'd also like to shout out my 4-year-old daughter, Layla. I love you. I know you're watching. Good job, and I'm proud of you. So we're here today, and it's unfortunate that we're talking about this. The fact that we even have to have a rally means that we have nobody on the inside that's doing the talking for us. Unfortunately, every single time one of these things happen, we rally, we make noise, and then it eventually dies down, and there's no actual change that happens. There's nothing tangible. Because in reality, what I've come to recognize as an immigrant, as an African, as a refugee, as a Muslim, is that true privilege and power is being at the table when you're making laws and policies. That's the true power. And you think that racism doesn't exist in Canada? I heard that recently. That's disgusting, right? In 1930, I could be wrong by a year or so, Dan Knott, who was elected mayor of Edmonton, was celebrated by the KKK by lighting up and burning a cross. Afterwards, he allowed them and gave them permission to burn several crosses at Northlands. And this is in Edmonton, Alberta. And on top of that, they were allowed to become a charter, meaning they were recognized as an entity here in Edmonton, Alberta. And you're trying to tell me that racism doesn't exist in Canada? You're telling me that racism doesn't exist in Canada when the former conservative government can create a line called the barbaric hotline practices, where I am a Muslim, and because I practice Muslim and I practice Islam, that they're gonna call on me and snitch on me because I'm being a Muslim, and this is what our government is facilitating? So no, racism is not dead, racism is not gone, racism is alive, man. Racism is here, and it is different than what it used to be before. Before it was like, hey, yo, N-word, come here, let me beat you up. It's not like that anymore for me. It's on the down low, it's hidden, it's subversive, it's coercive, it's very meant to make sure that I don't become part of something. It's meant to exclude, and this is real. And it's unfortunate, but I don't blame individuals in a system, because how can I? I'm part of a system. I have my own issues. No one is perfect. We all need to challenge our mentalities regularly, because if we don't check ourselves, there'll be nobody to check us for ourselves. And the truth is, we create little silos when we communicate these negativities in our own communities. Step out of your communities, y'all. Find new communities. Experience, lived experience is how we as human beings grow. We are computers. We learn through experience. The software that helps us learn is experience. The more you experience something, the better you get at it. 10,000-hour rule just means that you've done it so many times, your brain is like, you know what, fine, I'm tired of it, let me just do this damn thing. You know when you went to the bathroom, you know when you went number 2, somebody went to a public bathroom and it stunk when you went in there, but after a while your brain's like, yo, chill, I know it's here, but don't worry about it. It smells, but don't worry, I got you. It still smells, but what your brain has the capacity to make sure you don't pay attention to things that it doesn't think it's important. So you have to challenge your own thoughts on a regular basis, otherwise you'll fall into the trap of every single subliminal message that is provided to you. And I know you want to believe that you are not easily manipulated. I know you want to believe that you are not being conditioned to think a certain way. You're false, man. It's 100% false. I wish I could see you right now, but one thing that I do regularly is I say, put your fingers up like this. So try it out with me at home real quick. At home, right? Put your fingers up like this. I want you to take this and put it underneath your chin really quickly. When I said your chin's right, I bet you put it on your cheek. Why? Because I did it. Monkey see, monkey do is a real thing, man. You know what I mean? If you ain't being careful of what you are doing, you are so easily gonna fall into the norm. And what do I mean by the norm? I don't mean racism as in like, yo, N-word here. I mean as in, sorry, how did you learn to speak English so well? Oh no, we're looking for a literary artist, not a spoken word artist. Or maybe in Africa, you could be a bard. Here we have poet laureates and stuff like that. You go, what are you talking about, fam? I can be and do anything I want to do. And honestly, my father would say the best form of revenge is success. When they say you can't do it, you show up in your black attitude and you say, what up? We're at the table here? This is what we're gonna do today? Because the only way you're gonna make a difference is by being at the table. You know what they say? You're either at the table or you're on the menu. And too damn often we are on the menu being used to get grants, to facilitate things. This is a reality, man. This exists. You can't tell me that racism doesn't exist in Canada when folks comfortably fly the Confederate flag without even feeling guilty about it. That's ridiculous that they feel comfortable that they could fly a flag that has nothing to do with their history, unless they are from America, and that's perfectly cool. But if that has nothing to do with your history, you're willing to do that? You're telling me that racism is gone? When I was graduating from high school, our mascot was a rebel with a Confederate flag, and this is Ontario, man. So no, racism is not gone. No, racism is not dead. It still exists. And one thing you need to recognize is don't look at racism on the top, look at racism on the bottom. What do I mean by that? 99.9% of the institutions that were created during a time where homophobia, racism, and all of these different misogynistic perspectives were prevalent. And those things still reside to this day. If you plant crop on contaminated soil, no matter how many seeds, beautiful or really genetically thriving, you put into that soil, that crop will become contaminated. And the only way you can remove contamination is by reaching new grounds, starting something different, creating new philosophies, new perspectives. Change needs to happen from the inside, and that is why this is what you can do. Start supporting somebody who you believe in, municipally, federally, and provincially. Start electing representatives that know who you are and what you are. What do I mean by that? I had the best government just a little while ago. The NDP, people are probably like, yo, Ahmed, listen to me for a second. I'm tired of being put into boxes. Yeah, I'm black, yes, I'm Somali, yes, I'm Muslim, but I have my own beliefs. I want people who value me, right? When I first arrived to Canada, it was Edmonton, Alberta, man. And not until a few years ago did we celebrate Black History Month as a provincial thing. It was created by David Shepherd, somebody who used to come to my poetry spot to perform poetry. That's who. You know who else? Janice Irwin. Dance with my children, moves around the neighborhood. These are community politicians that I can go to because Janice and I sat on community boards together. These are people that represent me and understand me. So it's racist that you're more worried about your economy and oil than you are about my livelihood, because these people are helping me out, man. Right? These people are helping our people out. Education, right? Public health, right? These are the people who are helping us out, but what do? We elect people. And the only time we do this out of fear or out of hate. Start doing things out of love, man. Do it not because you're afraid of something, but you want change. Indigenous elders said it best. He said, we do not inherit anything, we borrow it from our grandchildren. None of this is ours, man. I'm not fighting, I'm not speaking, I'm not talking today because I want to. I'm an introvert. I hate talking publicly, believe it or not. But my daughter needs to hear this, right? I need to stand up, because if I don't stand up, who is going to? Like, I don't want to witness my daughter going through the same things that I did. And I know as human beings we're selfish. And I know racism is a personal thing that's personal to me. It might not be to you. That's fine, right? We're human beings. Nobody cares about MS or cancer until it affects their family. I know that. That's perfectly fine. But we need to change that mentality. We need to start supporting causes and people who we believe in, and not wait until they are dying or they are dead and they are gone. Giving flowers to people, the same mentality that we give flowers to the dead instead of planting trees so that they may live forever, is the same philosophy that we do when we stand up and we rally, but never go on the inside by joining commissions, boards, associations, being part of your committees, being and supporting on volunteering in community leagues. This is what we need. You need to be involved in your community. I've had somebody say to me, yo, Ahmed, I hate refugees. I go, well, man, I'm a refugee, yo. He goes, yeah, but I know you. I was like, well, then go get to know more people then, fam. What is wrong with you? Right? Experience is how we grow. Right now, think about it. Have you ever bought shoes, cars, or clothes? Before you bought it, you never saw it anywhere, but as soon as you bought it, you witnessed it all the time. Experience. It existed. Racism exists. Misogyny exists. Homophobia exists. These things exist, and we are allowing people to represent and write laws that do not necessarily represent us, and then later on we are the ones suffering the consequences. Please, the municipal elections are coming. Find somebody you believe in. Find somebody who at least close to your values so that you can speak with them and hold them accountable. Because how can I tell my daughter about accountability when you can become a premier by fraudulently, quote unquote, I don't know, allegedly, fraudulently getting elected and removing somebody who really cared about me and my community? How do you want me to feel about that, right? What am I supposed to tell my daughter? What am I supposed to tell my communities? Because I'm privileged, right? I make my income off of art. I live healthy. I have my health, 2 daughters, a beautiful wife. I'm good. But that doesn't mean that I can be comfortable. The only way we grow as human beings is when we're uncomfortable. Challenge yourself. Yeah, your parents, your family members might say something racist at the table and you can ignore it because that's how they grew up. But these same people are my bosses. These same people are my employers. These same people are the police officers that are pulling me over. These are the same people that put cops, that put guns on my face 6 times in my life. These are the same people. And the only thing I can do is talk about it because ain't nobody gonna be there to help me out. And it sucks feeling like if I die right now because of this, nobody's gonna care. Yeah, there might be a march. All I'm asking you to do is to be considerate and don't be selfish too much. It's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be confused. It's okay to feel guilty. It's okay to feel these things. But what comes next? As my father would say, you can complain about something, but if you ain't changing it, then you ain't changing shit. So you need to step up and make a difference. That's why I, as an individual, join boards, community leagues, and different things, because I want to not only support, but I want to be present at the table so that my daughter gets a full-on course meal and the future gets a full course meal. Because I suffered, and my future generations don't have to. Regardless of where you come from, regardless of who you are, regardless of your identity, you should be able to live as who you are, what you are, when you are, why you are, and just be you. Don't be questioned for speaking so well. Don't be questioned for being different. Just be you. And remember that we are made of nothing more than matter, made of earth and time. And in a matter of time, this body of ours will go back to earth and won't matter. Because in a world where legacy is the only thing you can leave behind, it's not when you enter your grave, but when the last memory of you fades that you truly die. After all, there's a reason why God shaped this earth like a honeycomb, is so that we may never forget to just be. And that's what we're asking for, is to be. Thank you.
2 hours flies by when you're having fun, right? I just want to say, first off, thank you to Starlight Room, who offered their help for us to be able to live stream this event to all of you out there. I want to thank all of you out there that stayed with us for these wonderful hours and that shared it and that are here right now to hear some of these departing messages. I have to say thank you to the speakers who, we're talking 2.5 days from conception to where we are right now, When they jumped in, some people reached out to say, I have to be on this stage, and everybody came here as exhausted as they are, as tired as they are, as tired as you can imagine, and then still decide, what am I going to say? How am I going to say this? Put it into everything in me and give it out to you so you can ingest that, use it, and then use it again and again and again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I have one more task for you that I mentioned was going to happen, and it's what did you learn? And the reason that I wanted to do this is I want you to take your phones out. Not a thing you're going to do later, because you won't do it later. That's what we do. You're going to take your phone out. You're going to hold it horizontally, landscape-wise, you and your family or you by yourself, and you're going to shoot yourself a little video, no more than 30 seconds, pledging what you're going to do. What did you learn from this rally? How will this change you? And what are you going to do different moving forward? You're going to send those videos to me, and I'm going to turn that into something really beautiful in conjunction with what we did here, and we're going to share that as well. What you do matters. What you say matters. Words matter. Actions matter more. Be the change. Jesse Lipscomb, your host. Thank you so very much.